Then Meghan Markle, fresh off of her dumping by Netflix, they've made no room for error. They're done with her.
Things just went from tense to explosive. Investigative force Tom Bower and royal insider Lady Colin Campbell are now stepping into what looks like a full-on takedown mission.
She is now going to be featured. The billing is it's called Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, Her Best Life Retreat.
The focus? A book called Betrayal, and the timing couldn't be more dramatic, just 9 days before its global release. Now the pressure is rising fast. Meghan Markle's legal team is reportedly pushing hard to have both digital and printed copies wiped out completely, trying to shut it down before anyone even gets past page 1. And here's the twist. The first chapter alone is already causing serious buzz, with insiders saying this move is all about controlling the story before it spreads too far. But this is where it flips. Legal experts in London are already warning that this strategy could seriously backfire, with some even calling it tactical suicide. This isn't just gossip anymore, it's turning into a real legal clash, and people watching closely know this could shift everything about. How this situation unfolds. Quick pause. If you think information shouldn't be silenced through legal pressure, hit subscribe right now. Tap the bell and drop truth in the comments to keep this conversation alive and seen. Back to the heat. The approach coming out of Montecito is being described as bold and all-in. This isn't just about protecting an image anymore, it's about stopping certain claims before they even gain momentum.
Carefully, an event that promises a lot of word salad that sounds very Meghan Markle. Quote, powerful conversations, relaxation.
By leaning on the UK's Libel Act, the mission seems simple. Shut it down early. But here's the part that changes the whole game. Under UK law, the burden of proof doesn't sit where most people think. If this goes to court, it may fall on Meghan to prove the claims are false with clear evidence, not the other way around. And that's where things get risky real quick. Because stepping into this kind of legal fight can trigger something called discovery.
That is vague. One can also purchase a VIP experience, which includes, quote, seating at a table in front 2 rows for the gala dinner with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Never forget, I don't know what that means.
That's the phase where both sides may have to hand over documents, messages, and records tied to the case. It's the moment where everything behind closed doors could be pulled into the spotlight. Legal insiders are already calling the atmosphere intense. While legal warnings are being sent out, Tom Bower is reportedly staying calm and steady. He allegedly told his team, "Let them sue. Discovery is exactly where I want her. She is handing me the subpoena power I need to verify the final receipts." That line alone has people talking. And then Lady Colin Campbell steps in. No hesitation, no filter. With years of royal knowledge behind her, she reportedly didn't hold back, saying, "Harry is a very complicated person because he is not very intelligent and undoubtedly remains damaged. His arrogance is now beyond belief. Let him sue me. I have waited years for a courtroom to become a matter of public record." That statement is now echoing across royal watchers everywhere. She's not stepping away, she's stepping forward, because in the court, things hit different. There's no polished interviews or managed messaging, just timelines, documents, and sworn testimony laid out for everyone to see. Now the stakes are getting even bigger. This situation isn't being brushed off as tabloid chatter anymore. It's entering serious legal ground. Some discussions are even brushing against frameworks like the Succession to the Crown Act of 2013, raising questions that go way beyond headlines. If any legal process starts uncovering gaps or inconsistencies in official records, the ripple effect could be huge. That's why this moment feels heavy, because it's no longer just about public perception, it's about what can actually be proven when it counts. What started as an attempt to shut something down might have just opened the door to something much bigger. By making this move, Meghan Markle could have unintentionally set the stage for a legal showdown where every claim, record, and timeline gets tested under oath. The countdown to March 26th is on, and the pressure is building fast. A move has already been made, but whether it lands clean or sparks something even bigger is what everyone is watching right now. Prince Harry is reportedly already on a private flight to London, trying to stay ahead of the situation as things escalate quickly. But here's the catch. The High Court filing is already in motion, and this process won't slow down for anyone. In the next part, attention shifts to the specific claims and inconsistencies that triggered this sudden legal push. Stay locked in, because this is where things take another sharp turn. Hit that like button if you want every detail broken down clearly. And don't go anywhere. There's growing talk about a so-called red USB that insiders claim could flip the entire narrative. This is still developing in real time, and every hour seems to bring something new. Now picture this: room 204 at the Portland Hospital in London, quiet, controlled, almost too calm. Officially, this room was meant to be the center of a major royal moment, but now, as of March 18, 2026, this situation is being pulled into something much deeper, and it's raising serious questions that won't go away. Tom Bower isn't someone who throws guesses around. He sticks to paperwork, timelines, and records that can actually be checked. For months, his team has reportedly been digging through medical systems in both the UK and the US, tracing details from Portland Hospital all the way to Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. And here's where things get real strange. What they found, or what they couldn't find, is now being labeled by some legal voices as the Portland Void. That phrase alone is turning heads, because when it comes to royal matters, missing documents can carry serious weight. So why does this even matter? Inside the British monarchy, a birth tied to succession isn't just a private family moment. It has constitutional importance. That's where the born of the body protocol comes in, a long-standing system designed to remove any doubt completely. Traditionally, it follows 3 clear steps. First, the birth is publicly announced. Second, senior royal doctors sign an official bulletin confirming all the details. Third, that signed bulletin is displayed publicly at Buckingham Palace so everything stays transparent. That process builds a chain of trust meant to protect the line of succession. But in this case, critics argue that parts of that process didn't follow the usual pattern. According to public reports and ongoing commentary, privacy was given as the main reason for limiting certain details. Names of medical staff were not widely shared, and the traditional signed bulletin didn't appear in the same format people have seen in past royal births. Now here's where it gets tricky. Some analysts are saying that when standard verification steps aren't fully visible, it can open the door to questions, not conclusions, but questions that start getting attention in legal and constitutional conversations. Then there's that moment from May 6, 2019 that people keep bringing up. During a media interaction near Windsor, Prince Harry casually said the baby had changed a lot in the past 2 weeks. Standing right beside him, Meghan Markle quickly corrected it to 2 days. That contrast caught attention instantly. 2 weeks versus 2 days might sound minor, but in a moment that important, even small differences can get people talking. Observers have pointed to that exchange as an example of how fast public statements can come under the spotlight. Now the focus is also shifting toward official registration language. Every birth in the UK is recorded, but some legal commentators are zeroing in on wording used in announcements. One phrase in particular, "born for the Duke and Duchess," is getting attention. At first glance, that might not seem like a big deal. But in legal terms, wording matters a lot. Some experts say phrases like "born for" can appear in specific contexts, which is why it's now being looked at more closely in discussions around this case. If this situation moves into full legal proceedings, these details won't just sit in headlines. They could be examined in court under oath. That means documents, explanations, and testimony could all come into play. And just as things build, another strong voice is stepping in even louder. Lady Colin Campbell is pushing things further, shifting the focus away from paperwork and straight into something much more direct. Because now, according to her, the answers may not just sit in records, they could come down to something far more personal and immediate. This situation is moving fast, and the pressure keeps climbing with every new claim and response. Stay locked in, because now things take a sharp and explosive turn. The focus shifts to what's being called a DNA ultimatum. And insiders say the pressure around Montecito is reaching a whole new level. The mood in London feels tense, almost electric, as one question keeps rising above everything else. And it's not something PR teams can easily smooth over. This is now being framed as a question of biology, and it's front and center. Lady Colin Campbell has stepped forward in a very direct way. No more careful wording. She's made a clear public challenge. She's calling for a verified DNA test for Archie and Lilibet, presented openly. Now, for some people, that sounds extreme, but in certain circles, it's being framed as a blunt way to shut down speculation once and for all. Her stance is simple. If the claims being discussed are completely false, then a quick, independent test could clear everything immediately. She's calling it a 15-minute solution. A neutral third-party test, done transparently, could end the debate in one move and completely undercut the credibility of these claims. But here's where the volume turns all the way up. As people wait for some kind of response, the silence itself is starting to speak loudly. In high-pressure PR moments, saying nothing can hit harder than any statement. and critics are already reading into that silence in completely different ways. Lady C isn't just calling for action, she's flipping the script and making the lack of action part of the story. She's suggesting that if there's truly nothing to hide, then simple proof should come easy, instead of leaning on heavy legal pushback. And this is hitting a nerve for a reason, because now attention is swinging back to past controversies that never fully settled. One moment that keeps coming up is the 2018 conversation that later surfaced during the Oprah interview. Harry and Meghan previously shared that a senior royal raised concerns about their future child's skin tone, and that claim sparked global reactions instantly. But now, Lady Colin Campbell is putting forward a completely different version. According to her sources, she describes that moment as a casual family-style conversation about possible traits, like hair color or appearance, not something meant with harmful intent. She even claims that Harry was calm during that exchange and took part in the discussion. That sharp contrast between the two versions is exactly why this topic refuses to fade, and why opinions stay divided. What started as a private issue has now grown into something much bigger. This isn't just about image anymore, it's now brushing up against legal structures and constitutional discussions. The spotlight is now landing on the succession to the Crown Act of 2013. This law lays out the framework for royal succession, including the long-standing principle that heirs must be born of the body within a royal marriage. Reports suggest that senior advisors, including figures connected to the Privy Council, are watching closely as this situation develops. If the legal case involving Tom Bower moves deeper into court, the discovery phase could force detailed evidence into the open. And that's where things get serious, because courts don't deal in narratives, they deal in proof. If inconsistencies were ever proven, hypothetically, it could raise tough legal questions about how these rules are applied. That's why this moment feels so intense and heavily watched. At the same time, another layer of pressure is building quietly. While legal tension rises in the UK, financial conversations are heating up across the US. Behind closed doors in places like London and New York, analysts and corporate advisors are reportedly reviewing the Sussex brand from a completely different angle. And the tone is shifting fast. What was once seen as a strong global brand is now, according to some insiders, being reevaluated as a possible risk. One name now getting attention is Dr. Sophie Chandaka, a corporate lawyer and strategist. Initially linked to stabilizing organizational efforts, her reported internal review, now being called in some circles a toxic brand dossier, is raising serious questions. According to those discussions, the findings point to concerns about long-term stability, partnerships, and public trust. So while one side of this story is focused on legal battles and public claims, another side is quietly focused on numbers, influence, and long-term survival. Two worlds, law and finance, are now colliding around the same situation, and the outcome is far from clear. Newly discussed figures are adding even more pressure. There's talk of a reported 40% drop in donor confidence worldwide, and this isn't being framed as a small decline, but something much more serious. To understand that shift, attention is turning to how the Sussex brand has been positioned over time. Critics argue that the messaging has leaned heavily into personal struggles, while major global sponsors like Audi and American Polo tend to align with themes like luxury, legacy, and aspiration. That gap is now being pointed out in financial circles. Reports tied to Dr. Chandaka's review suggest that some high-level donors and corporate partners are stepping back, not wanting to be tied to ongoing controversy. One senior marketing executive reportedly said during a private meeting, "We are in the business of selling dreams, not hosting a 24-hour grievance cycle." That line alone is now spreading quickly behind the scenes, and now the financial side is starting to feel tight. Estimates suggest the Archewell Foundation may have around $8 million in liquidity. That sounds big, but when you factor in private travel, security, and ongoing legal costs, that number can drop fast. Every single hour spent in a high-stakes legal battle adds more pressure. Analysts are already warning that costs at this level don't just rise, they stack up fast, and even large financial reserves can start shrinking quicker than expected. But money isn't the only problem building here. There's now growing attention coming from the UK Charity Commission, and this is where things start getting very serious. The Commission is reportedly looking closely at spending tied to high-profile appearances, zeroing in on whether those expenses actually match the core purpose of a non-profit organization. Under UK law, this falls under fiduciary duty. That means anyone running a non-profit is required to put the mission first. Not personal image, not branding, not publicity. Now the spotlight is hitting specific spending categories. Things like professional media production, wardrobe expenses, and even security arrangements are being talked about. The key question being raised, Is there a line being crossed between charity work and personal promotion? If regulators were to find that funds weren't used the right way, the consequences could be serious. We're talking about possible restrictions on leadership roles or limits on future involvement in UK-based nonprofit work. So now there are two major pressures building at the same time. On one side, a legal fight that could force transparency through the courts. On the other, a regulatory review focused purely on finances and accountability. And just as things start closing in on a critical moment, a new twist enters the picture. Prince Harry was reportedly seen late last night at a private terminal at LAX. He's heading to London, but this isn't being described as a routine trip. Insiders are calling it urgent, possibly tied to behind-the-scenes talks. Now here's the question everyone is starting to ask. What exactly is on the so-called red USB linked to the High Court filing? Because whatever is on that device, people close to the situation are treating it like it could change everything. At around 11 p.m. in London, a Gulfstream jet, identified as Flight N72SX, reportedly landed quietly with no attention at all. No cameras, no press, just a controlled, low-key arrival. Sources near the terminal are calling it an emergency movement, not a scheduled visit. And the timing has people talking, especially since it comes right after legal tensions escalated. But inside legal circles, the real focus isn't just Harry's arrival. It's that small encrypted device now being discussed as part of potential evidence. There's growing chatter about what's being called the red USB, described as a digital backup allegedly held for years. According to these ongoing reports, the device may contain encrypted material from around 2018. Not public clips or interviews, but alleged private conversations during a tense time inside royal operations. If any of that material were ever verified and brought into court, it could seriously shift the direction of the case. Right now, everything still sits in the space of claims, analysis, and developing updates. But one thing is clear, the intensity is rising fast. Because at this stage, it's not just about headlines anymore, it's about what can actually be proven with records, data, and evidence. To understand why people are calling this moment explosive, attention is now turning to how the Sussex narrative has evolved over time. Prince Harry has publicly stated that media pressure and internal dynamics played a major role in their struggles. But now, insiders are suggesting a very different angle. If the reported contents of this red USB turn out to be accurate, it could point to internal concerns being documented long before those claims ever reached the public. According to ongoing discussion, this material may suggest the narrative didn't begin in the media. It may have started behind palace walls, where staff were allegedly noting shifts in behavior and growing distance in key relationships. And now things are moving into the digital arena. As part of the legal process, Tom Bower's team is reportedly pushing to bring in subpoenaed WhatsApp data from 2018 to 2020. This is where things escalate fast. Once a case reaches this stage, certain protections can weaken, especially when legal defenses like justification are used under UK law. That defense allows a defendant to introduce private or previously restricted material if it supports their argument that the claims they published are substantially true. In simple terms, this flips the whole situation. Information that was once locked away, NDAs, private messages, internal discussions, could potentially be pulled straight into court if it's considered relevant. And that possibility changes everything. Because once those barriers start to fall, the story shifts from controlled narratives to raw, unfiltered documentation. Picture this clearly: a courtroom where private conversations aren't polished for interviews or shaped for documentaries, but presented as direct evidence. No edits, no spin. Just timestamps, real voices, and documented records under legal pressure. Inside legal circles, there's growing talk that the High Court evidence vault could already hold key digital material connected to this case. And that brings the focus right back to Prince Harry's sudden return to London. His arrival is being read in different ways. Some see it as an attempt to get ahead of the situation, while others believe it's about preparing for what's coming next. So what is it really? Negotiation, damage control, or something bigger? That's the question everyone is asking right now, because the clock isn't slowing down. March 26th is getting closer, and with it comes the scheduled release of Betrayal. What happens before that date could shape everything that follows. At this stage, analysts aren't even asking if the book will drop. They're asking how this whole situation ends. 3 possible outcomes are now being discussed across legal and media circles, and each one carries serious weight. The first path is what some are calling a legal injunction win, but many see it as unlikely. In this scenario, Meghan Markle's legal team manages to delay the book through court action. On paper, that looks like a victory, but critics are already warning it could spark backlash, with accusations of censorship spreading fast. There's even a known pattern here. When something gets blocked, public curiosity often spikes hard. If that happens, leaked copies could spread even faster and reach more people than expected. The second path is a financial settlement. That would mean certain parts of the book get removed or changed in exchange for a major payout. But here's where it gets tricky. With reports already pointing to dropping donor confidence and tighter liquidity, a big settlement could add serious financial pressure. And beyond the money, there's perception. Settlements are often seen as avoiding a full fight instead of winning one outright. Then there's the third path, the one many insiders think is most likely. This is being called the discovery counterstrike. In this situation, the lawsuit doesn't shut things down. It actually opens everything up wider. Because once the justification defense is fully in play, Tom Bauer's team gains the legal ground to request supporting evidence. We're talking documents, timelines, and possibly sensitive records directly tied to the claims being challenged. At that point, the options get real simple. Either comply and provide the material, or refuse and risk the case being thrown out, along with heavy financial penalties. There's no easy way through that. Either direction comes with serious consequences. And now, another twist is adding even more pressure. Reports say an updated witness list has been submitted as part of the case. One name is already getting attention, a senior staff member connected to Portland Hospital around May 2019. According to ongoing discussion, this individual may no longer be bound by earlier restrictions and could potentially testify if called. That possibility alone is raising eyebrows, especially with how closely that timeline is being examined. Meanwhile, the red USB is still right at the center of speculation. If it contains what some believe, its impact in court could be massive. Right now, everything is building toward one key moment. This isn't just a countdown to a book release anymore. It's a countdown to what information might come out alongside it. The next few days could seriously reshape how this entire situation is understood. If you want to stay updated as this continues to unfold, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications and drop checkmate in the comments so you stay locked into every new update as this story keeps developing.